Okay, now I want to talk about how I got gang stalked. So, I started off in 2005, coming across Michael Tessarian's work. And Michael Tessarian is a well known alternative researcher. And after listening to him for a little bit, I came across Jordan Maxwell. And I listened to him and Jordan Maxwell and dozens of other researchers for like 10 years. And at the end of that 10 years, um, I came across some interesting information about Jonestown and a lot of other subjects, but I was mainly interested in Jonestown, with Jim Jones and the People's Temple. And I had discovered that Jim Jones used a body double, and it became very apparent to me. Um, First of all, this was like Jonestown was like a mind control experiment, and Congressman Leo Ryan went down there to figure out what was going on to see if people wanted to leave. And the people who were involved in this like mind control experiment that was going on down there, they panicked and they killed Congressman Leo Ryan and the hundreds of other people that were in Jonestown. Most of them did not drink Kool-Aid. Most of them were like held down and injected with poison, or shot, or strangled. And uh, the Jim Jones body double thing. There's two different photographs of Jim Jones dead at Jonestown. There's the cabin Jones, which he's found dead in the cabin, and there's the Pavilion Jones, which is outside the pavilion. And it's two separate bodies, two separate people. In the movie Guy in the Crime of the Century, at the end, they show the main character dead that played Jim Jones in the movie. Then they show another guy who looks more like Jim Jones than the main character that was playing Jim Jones, dead on the ground next to the main character. And so they were showing two Joneses dead. And I discovered that there was another body double that got away out of there, along with the real Jim Jones. And so, after like about 10 years of research, I went and did some interviews with Jordan Maxwell, which I paid for. And then, after the first two interviews, you can tell that his mood changed and his attitude changed in the interviews. And at the time, I didn't really notice it. But he became real apprehensive to talk about stuff in the fourth and fifth and sixth interview. You could tell he was real apprehensive to go into stuff and talk about stuff. And so I went and I met him, and that was a really strange experience. How he is on the air when I listened to him for those 10 years was way different than meeting him in person. He was really angry and disgruntled, and he swore a lot, and he was just angry. Like the people who took his website, he was talking about how he wished he had a 45 and he could just blow them away and all this stuff. And, there was a point where I first met him, he was giving me like the middle finger, but I didn't know if he was senile or something, and it wasn't something he could control. Like we were standing outside the restaurant, he was talking about other people, but he was giving me the middle finger. And so the whole thing started kind of fucked up. And then we were together like 4 or 5 days, and after the second day, he showed me his free Masonic card at this Italian restaurant we were eating at in the San Fernando Valley. And his lodge is Ordo Templi Orientis, the OTO, the same lodge Aleister Crowley was in. And then he explained to me who stood in for him as a Freemason. And then out of nowhere, he said, "Let me take you to meet my mafia friend." And so at the time, I'm thinking like this is some old guy in the mafia that's like, probably was more in the mafia a few decades ago. But he's older now, like Jordan Maxwell. He's not, really doing anything anymore. But he took me to this nightclub called the Count Monte Cristo. And at the time, I didn't even know the name of the nightclub. When I got back to Michigan, I remembered that there was a school right next to the nightclub. It was like a girls' Catholic school or some sort of Catholic university or something. And I Googled it, and I found the nightclub on Google Maps. And so that's how I remembered how to figure out where I was at. But it was the Count Monte Cristo nightclub, and the guy who owned the club, his name was Michael Pacina, and we went up to Michael Pacina, me and Jordan Maxwell. First, Michael Pacina's wife came into the parking lot, and Jordan said, "I'm here to see Mike," and she said he's in there. And so before we got out of the car and went up there to meet this man, Jordan Maxwell told me that the guy was a hitman in the Gambino crime family. Then he told me that they both had became Masons together in Ordo Templi Orientis. So I went upstairs and I met him, and I didn't even know his name until I got back home, and I was able to Google and find out the name of the nightclub and all that stuff. But that's who I met, and so when we were there at the meeting, you know, I remember Jordan Maxwell asking that guy for permission to he was asking him for permission on what he could put in his future interviews, and the words Jordan Maxwell used were, "How much of the dark stuff can I talk about?" And so you know, I remember the guy saying, and Jordan Maxwell called him Mike the whole time we were in there. And so, but I remember the guy, Mike, saying that the government was more closely connected to the occult than what most people think of, than what most people know. And then I remember him telling Jordan Maxwell that Skull and Bones knew who he was, and Skull and Bones is a secret society that's also Masons. And, you know, they had George Bush Jr., so they're up in the presidency and the CIA and stuff like that, you know, because both of George Bushes worked in the CIA and stuff. So, you know, George Bush Sr. was the director of the CIA and back in the 70s and stuff. And so, you know, I saw all that, and I left with Jordan Maxwell, and we never went back there. And the next day or two, I was with Jordan Maxwell. I was staying at the Best Western in Woodland Hills. So I had left the Best Western and went down to Motel 6 on Hollywood Boulevard. It wasn't a nice time being with Jordan Maxwell, so before I went home, I wanted to see some nice stuff and have some fun. And Jordan called me up on the phone and tried to trick me into taking all my interviews down. And looking back at it now, it looks as though that Jordan Maxwell, like these people were trying to get me to ask to be a Freemason, and that seems like the reason why they showed me all this stuff. And there's no way in the world I wanted to be a Mason. And so he tried to trick me into taking all my interviews down. And I didn't do that. And I took him down for a little bit because I was confused, but then I put him right back up. And he had a real bad attitude. He told me all this crazy ass stuff. And, you know, some people had showed up at the hotel. It was like something. It was a mafia guy at the hotel, older mafia guy at the hotel. And there were like gang members outside in their cars. And I walked up to the guy, and he said something in the phone, like a code into the phone, and some woman came down from an elevator. And they got in a truck and drove off. And the whole time this was happening, I had a really bad feeling that something bad was about to happen. And the cars out front, like, slowly dispersed. And this was some sort of hit, you know, that Jordan Maxwell wanted me to get all these interviews off the air so these guys could do a hit on me. And then the interviews, hopefully they would believe the interviews never go back up. And so the guy didn't do that. I guess he had sent a message saying that they didn't think I was going to be a problem, like I wasn't going to reveal anything I had seen, yada, yada, yada. And so I went back to Michigan. Then when I went back to Michigan, I made a couple videos, but nothing really exposing them. I just said it was a strange experience. And then that summer, going in, this was like uh, February. This was like March, I think, of 2015. And so a couple months later, I was just so damn angry about everything that happened. I went on there and started talking, telling everybody that Jordan Maxwell is a Mason and all this stuff. And then that's when the gang stalking started. And it didn't look, I don't think this was like Jordan Maxwell that was doing the gang stalking on me or his friend, the Michael Bassina guy. What I think happened is it was the higher level Freemasons that work with like these secret societies, and they saw the disruption I was doing, so they started targeting me and gang stalking me. And it was horrible after that. It was a really fucking horrible experience. And I truly believe Jordan Maxwell has been involved with other stuff like that. I can't be the only person that he tried to do something like that to. And it seemed more like it was Jordan Maxwell trying to make this thing go through, setting me up to have me killed. It didn't seem like it was really the mafia people. It just seemed like it was more Jordan Maxwell. What he was getting at all this, I don't know. Like, those interviews were about stuff that happened like 40 something years ago, 50 something years ago, 60 something years ago. So, my take is maybe there was just information about like the body double and some of the other stuff I talked about that they didn't want out. And they were kind of concerned that if, over time I might be able to bring out a lot more information, or people might start listening to the information I've already have brought out. But, that was a real fucked up experience, man. And it went downhill. It seems like it was just all Jordan Maxwell. And like everything bad, and it wasn't even the interviews. It was just him trying to set me up and showing me all that stuff about the Masons and all that stuff. And that really upset me. And presenting that stuff online just went further and further and further. And, how some woman across the street, I didn't even know, Robin Pastuca, ended up using her family to gang stalk me, and the police were involved in it and stuff, and it was just a really horrible fucking experience.